coming out on this Wednesday evening of September. Anyway, this is the regular meeting, September 14th, 6 p.m. The regular meeting is, should I have to read all that? I guess I should, because we are live on Zoom, correct? Yeah.
Madam
Zoom.
Mayor Pro Tem, it's optional. It's there. It's posted. The public is aware of it.
Okay. There was no closed session, so I'm not going to report out there. Open session, let's call open session to order. And I would like to have Sergeant Griffin lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to do a roll call, but before I do that, I just want to have a moment of silence because we do have a community member that expired about 2 weeks ago. My good friend Linda Hartman's son died, Bo, and he is going to have a celebration of life. I believe it's at their home. I don't know the address though, but I just want to have a moment of silence for Bo, please, and then we'll start with the meeting. Thank you. Okay. Let me get a roll call. Can we do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lohman,
Here.
Councilmember Ackerman,
Present.
Councilmember Fichula,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza,
Present.
and Mayor Burris is absent.
Okay, and now I need to get an approval of the agenda order. May I have a motion to approve the agenda order?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I have to do a roll call. Roll call, because we're not all.
Yeah, we'll do a roll call, please.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, all the council that's in attendance in this meeting is here physically. So, roll call is your option.
Oh, it is my option? Okay. We'll do a roll call.
Councilmember Fichula,
Here. Yes.
okay, Councilmember Lohman,
Aye.
Councilmember Ackerman,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be approved by one blanket motion with a council vote unless a council member and or public member of the public wants to pull an item from the consent for discussion. Items pulled will be addressed after council completes the consent calendar vote and will require a separate motion. Are there any items on the council that the public or council would like to pull from the consent?
I'd like to pull 3B as in Baker and 3E as in Edward.
Okay. 3E and 3B, is that
Yep.
correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to pull 3B and 3E, and then do I have a motion to move forward 3A, 3C, 3D, and 3F?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor? I'd like a roll call, please.
Councilmember Fichula,
Aye.
Councilmember Lohman,
Aye.
Councilmember Ackerman,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, so let's back up a little bit, and you want to discuss
3B.
3B. Go for it. What do you got? What do you got, Joe?
I had a question on the contract for 3B. Typically on the first buy of a new piece of equipment like this, the supplier provides like a day's worth of instruction on how to attach all the attachments, how to operate the equipment and all. And I didn't see any training in the contract.
You're correct. There's usually some kind of clause in there in this particular one. I don't know if it was overlooked or whatever, but the staff will ensure that before we fully execute this, that we get that written in as well too.
Okay, so I would expect at least the key operator or operators to go through a day or a partial day of training on this. So
Absolutely.
with that adjustment to this item, pending that he gets that actually in there, I'd make a motion to approve this item.
Then, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I was actually going to ask for this item to be pulled because I want to make a point of clarification. The item itself, I mean, as we did the amended agenda, we unintentionally didn't include the sales tax in it. So we sent out the amendment with the sales tax in there. But in addition, the item exceeds the CIP budget that was approved by council, but it does not include exceed the CIP total budget. So we're still within budget for the CIP. So moving forward, if there's a budget amendment that is needed in the future, it would be brought forward at the mid-year budget to make an adjustment. Just wanted to make sure that the public and council was aware of that.
And does any council member have any further question on this particular item or what Wes brought forward? Okay, can I get a motion to approve 3B, please?
Yeah, I made the motion with that amendment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, item 3E.
Okay, item 3E, I would just like Wes, if you'll talk about 3 line items. On page 26 of this package, there's a line item in there for $130,000 to the solar grant in July. Could you talk to that one for a minute?
Sure. Just to point out, Councilmember Fatula, that these line items are in 3F that we're looking at here, but on there, but I appreciate the
I'm sorry. Yep, you're right.
the opportunity to clarify on here.
Yep.
So the items that you pointed out, there's $130,000 cost for Holt Renewables. That's part of the grant that we received for the installing solar out at the wastewater treatment plant. That cost is completely covered by the grant from the state.
And has any work on that actually started, or where are we at on that?
Yes, that work has started. We had a little bit of a slow up. They had some topography issues. They had to submit a grading plan to change some of the slope on there. I'd say probably a third of the panels have been installed at this point on there. So it's going well.
So that's a real positive one. I just wanted everybody to hear that because that's going to affect the next item down there, which is the $19,000 item.
So in this $19,000 item, that is the utility bills for all of city's facilities, but I can tell you the majority of it.
For 1 month.
Yes, the majority of that cost is the wastewater treatment plant, which is one of the reasons why we targeted putting solar out that plant to kind of manage the cost forward on there.
Okay. So the only thing I'd want to correct is it should be item 3F, not 3E, that Wes pointed out. It's off the cash summary, what we approved. Yeah, so it should be 3F, not 3E. Okay. All right, so with that comment in there, and then there's one other line item, and that's on page 27, down at the bottom of the page, the Wood Rogers 166K.
So that cost is also associated with the regional board grant for the wastewater systems. Wood Rogers is our engineer oversight for the 3 projects, and the majority of that cost is borne over the design of the I&I, the inflow and infiltration cost, the SAF-DAF system, so that's algae extraction, and then the oversight management of the solar system being put in.
Yeah.
So it's within contract limits that we have that was approved by council. But again, this is fully funded from the grant.
And the important thing about this is we're making progress to work on getting that $19,000, almost $20,000 a month electric bill down. So there's a lot of steps yet to go, but this is a huge step because it's actually happening.
Yeah.
All the years that we went after these grants and all the fighting we did to get this in place, it's actually now happening. So when people say, is there any hope for our current or future sewer bills? The answer is we got things that are starting. right?
And then if I'm gonna go ahead and take this opportunity to expand on, as I did last council meeting, the construction grant that included 3 projects I just previously mentioned was 5.5 million.
Yeah.
We believe that we're going to be able to expand that out another $6 million for the construction side of it. So the construction grant funding that we're going to receive for this project for the wastewater system is about $11.5 million.
Yeah.
Okay, Wes, for clarification, when did we start all this? Do you remember?
2018, I believe, is when we initially started this.
Yeah.
And the identification of the solar power?
It is the same time as we submitted for these 3 projects, identify them as key areas to help manage forward, to help manage the cost forward as we go through here. I teased for the representative that we work with through the state that we're probably going to have the same retirement timeline as, by the time we get done with this project, because we've been working on it so long.
Yeah.
Due diligence, I guess.
Yeah, but if you look at it,
Keep it all moving forward.
is your city council doing something to try to work on these costs? And I can't tell you how many hours various people have put into this just to try to make all this come together. So, and then later on today, I'm going to be asking everybody for their help in our streets grant thing that we're going after too. So I'll talk about it in my section coming up.
Okay, so,
So with that motion to approve the remaining item, which should have said 3F, not 3.
okay. So I have a motion. Do I have a second for 3F?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we are at item 4, which is agency reports. Want to thank you for coming in today to give us a little report.
No problem. Sergeant Kevin Griffiths, your station commander at the Placer County Sheriff's Office for Colfax. This last week is kind of a blur, as the last month has been for me. Extremely busy. You guys all know about the mosquito fire and that one kicking off last Tuesday night. Cal Fire is really working hard out there. I've spent most of my time between Colfax and Auburn running the staging part of that, getting our officers up there to do those evacuations. I want to make sure that the communities out there know that we don't take evacuating people from their houses lightly. We know that there was a bunch of citizens in Todd Valley wanting to know why they couldn't go back over the last couple of days. Well, last night was the reason that they were being held out of their community longer than what we had hoped. We knew, thanks to Cal Fire, that there was a worry there with that fire coming around on the river. And I know Chief Rufinot is going to go in on that and come right up those ridges that act just like flumes of a fireplace and take that heat up. We saw that very scary last night as I was up on the Dutch fire running that one, as far as the evacuations with the lieutenant and captain right there doing the direction of how we could take care of that. And then we saw the mosquito fire blowing up and going up that ridge line. So Dutch fire is completely under control, taken out as far as I'm aware. The freeway was shut down for quite a bit of time, and it came down to just cleaning off that retardant that they laid down and making sure that the drivers could drive safely through that. But I would raise my hands up to the California Highway Patrol. They have the toughest job, second to the firefighters that are out there on the line and dealing with those road closures and trying to keep those community members that are absolutely, they're emotional. They want to get back to their houses and they want to get in, especially when they see that large flume of smoke. And those guys in the jobs that they do every day out there, they're just constantly getting kicked in the shins with trying to explain to people why we have to hold them out. But there is that reason. And hopefully over the next few days, Cal Fire will put another tremendous knock in that fire and we'll be a little bit closer to getting people back into their houses. But for us, it's all about making sure the community is safe. That's all I have. If there are any questions that I can answer from the sheriff's office side, I'm sure Chief Rufinot will have a lot more of the answers. Yes, sir. Thank you. This was Forest Hill was the one that we were worried about because of the one way out pretty much. And we did. We operated the plan, which you guys all know we've been training on for years. That's been our biggest scare. The community helped out in getting out. I appreciate that. We did do some warnings up in Iowa Hill yesterday. It was last night. I think we sent close to 40 deputies over there. just to go door to door. We wanted to physically knock on everybody's door in Iowa Hill over to the actual evacuation center, because we are aware the members of that community don't necessarily have phone service up there. So we wanted to go door to door and knock on everybody's door so that next time when we come through, hopefully we don't have to, but they'll know that we'll get our high-low sirens and it's time to leave at that point.
Excellent. Any questions from council? Anybody else in the public? Thank you for coming in. Okay. And next, CHP.
Hi, Chris Nave, California Highway Patrol. I'll keep it short and sweet because I believe Cal Fire's got the gist of it. But just give you a heads up. The sheriff mentioned it, but I was actually first on scene at the fire yesterday at Dutch Flat. Just to answer a lot of the questions everybody keeps asking me if it was a truck fire. When I got there, there was no truck anywhere to be seen. So as far as I know, it's still under investigation. I do not believe that it was a truck fire that ignited it, but there was no truck there when I got there. So that is not my impression that a truck started, but it was very rapid. By the time I gotta say I was impressed. By the time I put it on the radio, it was within 5 minutes. I think that the planes were overhead, the helicopter was overhead, and that Alta Reservoir, I think, was probably the saving grace because the helicopter could just dip right there. So we do want to thank the community for their cooperation. I know it's tough, like Sheriff mentioned again, but I know it's tough when you want to get home and you can't get home. We get it. And I live in that community as well. So, I mean, I totally understand the feeling on that. Just to give you, so you guys are aware, we have the Highway Patrol, we have been put on tactical alert, which means that all days off have been canceled and everybody's on mandatory 12-hour shifts. So we're running 2 shifts right now, a 6 to 6 a.m. and p.m. So we're going to do that until the fire gets under control. We're helping with the closures for that fire, and just making sure that we have enough staffing available to manage this and try to keep everything functioning. So that's where we're at right now. I think we're on almost a week of being on tactical alert. I don't know when it's going to end. So we'll be out and about. So any questions for me about any of that?
Any questions from council? Anybody in the public? Okay, well, thank you for taking your time and coming in and putting out a report. Placer County Fire, Cal Fire.
Good evening, Assistant Chief Mike Rufinot, Cal Fire, Placer County Fire Department. And I'm just going to go over some real quick stats. Chief Lovelace is on his honeymoon right now. And yes, for those of you that are familiar with him, he's been married more than a couple of years. So much needed for them. Placer County Fire in August of 2022, we had 88 wildland fires, 36 structure fires, 34 vehicle fires, 77 vehicle accidents, 19 rescues. Those are like medical rescues, Stevens Trail type stuff. 623 medicals, an assortment of other calls for a total of 1,130 calls. So a busy time. Now let's talk fire in the area. So on September the 6th, we had the Hill Fire up in Iowa Hill, and we set up our incident command post originally right across on 174 at the Red Frog. That was that call went out at about 6 a.m. And don't quote me on the specific acreage, but I want to say it burned 28 acres. We had units out there continuing to mop that up and check that fire up until a couple of days ago. So a pretty long process. Now let's move to the Dutch fire that our LEOs talked about. That fire ended up being 51 acres. And that fire, where it came off the road behind Monteverde Inn, if you drove up Interstate 80 and you looked at Monteverde Inn off the side there, there was just a big stand of bug-killed trees, several acres of bug-killed trees. And that fire basically went right off the roadway into those trees and just took off. And that the lake Alta, back by our Alta fire station, did help quite a bit. In fact, I think they were doing some structure defense work at our fire station is what I heard. So that area is also we've been working on a fuel break in there. I'm not sure where the progress is on that fuel break, but I know that along the fire station there, it looks pretty good. Moving back, the idea was to bring it from Monteverde in up to the Alta exit on that side of the road. So that fuel break definitely helped in keeping that fire somewhat less acreage than it could have been. So that same day, back up September 6th, about 6 o'clock in the evening, we were dispatched to a vegetation fire at Oxbow Reservoir. And I started the Tahoe National Forest. It was on their land, so to speak. And we started up there, got up there with them. And it was about 5 to 7 acres when they first got units on it and aircraft. It was the canyon's very steep if you're familiar with the Oxbow Reservoir, and they're really steep in that Mosquito Ridge Road. And so it was really hard to get the aircraft in there because of the steepness of the canyon. And then on top of that, there's 60 kV power lines running through there and 230 kV power lines adjacent to the river area coming off of those powerhouses. So how do you fly the aircraft down into those tight canyons with power lines? So very hard to do. We had 2 fixed wing, 2 air tankers, and then our air attack air boss ended up calling for 2 helicopters to work in there. Very limited time because it was getting dark. And a lot of times in the canyons, it's hard to work that aircraft in the evening or early in the morning because of the shadowing. So they start getting shadows in the canyon. It's really hard for those pilots to see what they're flying into or out of. So very dangerous, but they gave it their all. Obviously the fire exploded a little bit later that evening and jumped the North Fork of the Middle Fork of the American River. And in the back is a map of the fire, the current fire footprint as of this morning. And so the fire right now is 58,544 acres. It's 20% contained. There's 3,052 fire personnel assigned to this fire. So is it going to mess things up if I go over there to point at the map or?
Do that.
Okay, so and then on that initial start of that fire, one of the first things I did as I was rolling up the road, up Forest Hill Road, because it is quite a drive in there, got on Placer County Sheriff's Office, their frequency. I have one of their radios, called their sergeant, their lieutenant, and said, "You guys need to get up here. This is probably going to go big." All the unified command that Kevin and I talk about all the time, this is where it comes into play. So put that action into play on this fire. We ended up going up. Fire was progressing to Forest Hill Fire Department's admin building and setting up our incident command post. And Nolan Hale, who is captain times now, just recently promoted battalion chief, assigned him to operations. And I took unified command with Placer County SO and the Tahoe National Forest. So, Brian, you guys can ask me questions later. Apologize, I'm a little tired. So this fire currently 58,544 acres. You have Stumpy Meadows right here, Wentworth Springs Road coming across right here. Then you have Forest Hill Road that comes up right here. Here's the town of Forest Hill, all through here. Forest Hill proper right through there. As we all know, this fire was looking pretty good. We had there's some black line in here. It's 20% contained. That's where all this black line is. All across the bottom here, and then coming down right in here. And we have this pocket right here, and you can see actually on this map, you can see, if you probably can't see from a distance, but if you come up and look at this pocket right here, you'll see black checkered line. That's our dozer line. That's the dozer line that we put in as contingency to stop the fire. Our big worry was it was September the 8th. So was that Thursday? The fire jumped the canyon down by Oxbow Reservoir and made a hard run into the town of Volcanoville, or the community of Volcanoville, going up towards Wentworth Springs. So that brought the fire down the river a little bit. We were very concerned. That's when we started evacuating Todd Valley. How many people are in Todd Valley, Kevin? 2,000? Nope. Oh, a lot, 1,600 homes, so. So quite a few people in there. It's quite a challenge to evacuate that many people. So there was, if you were in the Auburn area, you probably saw a lot of fire engines, a lot of law enforcement vehicles up and down. This is, Kevin and this is our nightmare community because of the one way in, one way out type of roadways. Yes, there is another road taking Forest Hill Road up into Serene Lakes, but it's not a viable road. Yes, there's other roads like Yankee Gyms and going across Iowa Hill, but yeah, somebody's shaking their head here. He's been down them. Nobody shook their head when I said Mosquito Ridge. Apparently, you guys need to take your spouses for a drive down there and see how cars sick. Yeah, that's a rough, that Mosquito Ridge Road is a rough road. So the backing up a little bit. So this took off on us on September the 8th and moved up into El Dorado County. Kind of equipment was moved over to the other side. At the same time, we were calling for more equipment on the Forest Hill side because we still didn't have a good handle on the Forest Hill area. And obviously yesterday, this fire jumped from the El Dorado County side back into the Placer County side. Yesterday afternoon, burned 1,129 acres really quick. Fortunately, we had the resources in place. I don't believe we lost any structures, but don't quote me on that. I just drove up there this afternoon. There's fires right up to Forest Hill Road. So a lot of units up there mopping it up. There's also what you can't see on this map on the whole thing because of the red line, fire line. There's a lot of black line, a lot of dozer line, a lot of contingencies that we've done in here. So that contingency line definitely helped with that fire as it came out. And where it came out on Forest Hill Road was basically near Wharton's Market, between Wharton's Market and the Forest Hill High School. Further down towards Todd Valley here, what are we doing to keep this fire from getting into Todd Valley? Go back to, was it 2015? We had the trailhead. So I had the division on the trailhead, the first burning period, and I opened up, we put a ton of fire breaks on the trailhead. So now Chief Hale and the other firefighters went in there and opened up those fire breaks again. So there's a lot of fire breaks all through Forest Hill. So the next time you drive up there, you're going to really notice that it is opened up quite a bit. So the fire with our weather push right now, the fire is moving to the east. It's going this way. It's branching out. Obviously, it's really tough. We have Wentworth Springs Road, Stumpy Meadows. The King Fire burn is about right here. Goes over like this. So as this fire burns, it's going to get into that King Fire burn, which is a lot of dead and down, a lot of snags, dead trees, standing, very hazardous conditions for fighting fire in. It won't be as intense, but the amount of those snags burning, they fall really easy. You get up into these other canyons, the Middle Fork of the American, going up into French Meadows, all these canyons here that are pushing eastward, really tight canyons. This Rubicon River drainage that goes up into the bottom of Hellhole right here, about right here, is super, super steep. It's one of the, I tend to like to fish these canyons. I'm not sure why, because the fish are big and I don't see anybody. The Rubicon River Canyon is if you want big fish, that's a good canyon to go in. The problem is it's really steep and you'll probably only go in there once and say, I'm never doing that again. So it's super steep. What's that mean for firefighting? We can't get dozers in there. We have to fight it with aircraft. We can't get crews in there. Aircraft is a great asset, but it has to be backed up by those fire crews. So trying to find areas to cut this fire off is a real struggle at this point. Areas. The divisions that are working on here are there's a lot of equipment out in front of this. There's a lot of unburned fuels. There's an area right up here that doesn't have any fire history on it. You have the American burn. What was that? 2000? No, it was after 6. 2008. 8. And then you have the Star Fire. The Star Fire, which is a small footprint about right in here that went up to French Meadows, and that was 2000. Yeah, 4 or 5. And then you have the Ralston fire in there too. So you have a lot of burn scars in there. A lot of it's really overgrown. You have a huge area of SPI land that runs across here. And then this isn't SPI, Sierra Pacific Industry land, is checkerboarded. Really expensive timber stands in some of these sections of land. So there's the assets at risk out here are the timber for sure. And SPI has a bunch of money wrapped up into those. Getting back to the fire, because I'm getting off track, our priorities still remain the Forest Hill area, this Forest Hill Road. Hold this thing south of the Forest Hill Road. Or Springs Road, hold this fire north of Wentworth Springs Road, keep it out of Volcanoville, Quintet, Georgetown, down the road. So our priorities are life first, then property, right? So we'll get to this. I want to, if I forget, remind me to talk about this upper end here, because that's where you all are concerned. Sure. So as this fire moves out right here, they're trying to make fire line through here. This division is to try and cut this off. This is Deadwood Road. Drops down right here. Trying to hold it, trying to find a place, do the best they can. Last night when this 1,128 acres, 29 acres came up out of the bottom of the canyon there, we had over 10 aircraft on it, and they were very large air tankers. So the jets. So I wasn't up there, but I'm sure it was quite an air show. And there's a Clint Eastwood movie where he's a cowboy and he saves the town, but he paints it red at the end. You guys remember what movie that was? I forget. But basically, that's Forest Hill is painted red with Fozcheck. It's amazing. So, so the fire's going to continue to go this way. We're trying to hold it in these areas. We just got to get out in the front here and find some good spots in the sand to make a stand. And that we have units and crews and dozers, tons of equipment out there working. Colfax is right here. What's the threat to Colfax? Because if you look at the Placer County Sheriff Office evacuation zones, they put zone 11A. They turned it from yellow to red, and that 11A is the, help me out here. I'm not the evacuation zone guy, Kevin. Yeah, Churchill Creek area. So why did we do that? Yeah. Yep.
I'll run across the street and get our map that I have.
And a lot of time these evacuation zones, when we work with law enforcement to set up these evacuation zones, one of the things that we have, like you have this in El Dorado County, when you go up to Crystal Basin, Ice House, Loon Lake, Rubicon area, it's all in a evacuation. Is that a warning up there still? So a lot of it is to get people to get out of there because there's one way in, one way out. There's not a lot of room, especially when we start forcing fire equipment up in there. And that goes for the same in that section 11A or zone 11A that the sheriff's office put up. Just trying to get people aware and moved out of there so that that's one less thing we have to do just because it is such a remote area. And it does take takes a lot of deputies to go in there and to get that done. Chris.
Chief, we've been getting a lot of calls, concern up in the Rudy Ridge area. Is that any yellow like
it's not. I'm shooting off the top of my head. I don't believe it's
Rudy Ridge is on the other side.
Oh, that's right. The river,
yeah.
River seems to be the cutoff.
I believe, yeah, the river's cut off, and again, it's because of the ruralness of that location, not necessarily because of how fast the fire is going to move through there. So I know that everybody's like yellow is right there to the North Fork is right down there. The Cal Fire is making their stand where they're making it. We just have to put that out in advance because of how long it would take to get in there. And what we found during the last couple of days, even people in Todd Valley, we've had phone calls where, oh, you didn't give us enough notice to evacuate. They had 2 days of notice, and they're upset because you get into that yellow zone, you get that warning. That's your time to get ready because we don't know when we're going to have to tell you to evacuate. Because that fire like yesterday, it kicked off quick and it was right out.
It did, and we've been taking a lot of flack for people that are, I don't see smoke. I'm a retired firefighter. I used to be a firefighter. I don't see smoke. Why can't I go back into my house? And and yesterday was the prime example of why we've evacuated Todd Valley. And luckily we didn't lose any houses, but when you put people back in that close to a fire and then you have it make a run like it did, now it ties up not just the sheriff's office, it ties up those fire resources. Those fire resources are tied up trying to get people out, trying to rescue people. Guess what those fire resources aren't doing? Not putting out fire, not protecting property. So anyhow, with evacuation zones, and Chris, I don't know if Moody Ridge went into a yellow because it did with the
It was kind of.
Dutch fire?
Online. So there was some confusion with the blows up on the.
So
Or I should say confusion, concern.
absolutely. So this fire is moving to the east, going up this way, right? Not going this way, not going back towards Auburn. Is that a concern? Still a concern. This pocket of 1,129 acres was a concern that we had that unfortunately came to fruition yesterday. Are we telling people to evacuate? No, we're not doing any of that. The Unified Command, I'm actually one of the deputy incident commanders on this fire right now. We're working with the sheriff's department. We're watching, monitoring what's happening on the fire. The fire was to take, all of a sudden we got some crazy wind out of the area that started pushing this fire towards Colfax. We're going to let you all know. We're going to give you plenty of time to get out. Okay, so it's right now, Colfax, you guys are safe. The biggest issue you're going to have is if you have people coming up for a hotel going, I'll stay at the hotel down the street, the Best Western. I'm not going to get in there because we're utilizing hotels like crazy to house firefighters. Yes, sir. The smoke, I couldn't tell you the smoke, both of the smoke's been going up this way into the Tahoe Basin. The other day, 2-3 days ago, the API level, isn't that what that's called, the API level? It was 600 to 700 a basin. The sheriff of Sierra County called me in the Sierra Valley, and he said, I don't know what you're doing down there, but you need to put it out because we can't breathe it. And so the smoke is going to drift around in the morning. Generally, the winds go down canyon a little bit, and you get that inversion layer, and that's so it'll push that smoke down into Roseville, Rockland. You guys are probably, you might be just boxed in because of where the fire is drifting across, or it might be just completely clear. But then in the afternoon, with our regular weather, those winds are going to start to push up canyon. They're going to push that smoke up. When that smoke is locked in over Colfax, over Forest Hill, that's actually a good thing because that fire is not burning as aggressively as it does when you take the top off of that pot and that smoke goes up, starts going up and things clear out. What happens here when you guys have seen the smoke clear out? You look across the canyon and you go, well, that's not good, right? That fire seems like it's going nuclear. Oh, Don, you're laughing at me. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. We are in Unified Command with Placer SO, the Tahoe National Forest. There's California Incident Management Team 5. It's a federal team that has come in. It's a Type 1 team. The incident base is down in Roseville at the grounds. And 35 years of being a firefighter, I've never been in a fire camp that's this nice. That facility down there from the Roseville Fairgrounds is greatly improved. It is amazing. We have another base, like a second base at the Placerville, El Dorado County Fairgrounds, so that units can get up Highway 50 or into the Georgetown area from there. So there's 3,052 people assigned to this incident right now, with more equipment coming in the next couple of days. So that level of personnel is going to increase. How do we house those people? How do we feed them? There's a lot of logistical needs. Where do we get fuel from? all that stuff. So we need a big area. On top of that, they've made Blue Canyon. If you go up to the Blue Canyon Airport, that's where the helibase, they have a helibase up there. So that's they're running those helicopter operations out of Blue Canyon Airport. Why up there? Why not Auburn? Why not Placerville? They are running stuff at Placerville Airport too, but Blue Canyon gives them a quick run right into the fire to be able to work this fire. So does everybody have that flight? Anybody have the flight tracker, flight aware on their phone? They can check and see where the aircraft are at. Seen it? Look at night. Look what aircraft are flying on this fire. A lot of talk about it right now, but there's aircraft flying on that fire at night last couple of days. So this fire is the #1 priority fire in the state right now. So any other questions? Any questions you have related to this fire? Stuff I haven't talked about, stuff that I have talked about? Yes, ma'am. She asked about Wharton's Market and the high school. Is it under control? It is still smoking out there. The goal is to hold it and keep it on the south side of Forest Hill Road. Resources are units up there. There's a ton of fire equipment on that road. They're doing a really good job of keeping it on the south side of that road. I'm going to tell you that it couldn't spot on the other side of the road because I wasn't going to tell you the other day that it wouldn't spot from El Dorado County into Placer County a couple of days into. Yeah, but it's the good thing is that a lot of this fire has been terrain driven and fuel driven. You know, on top of Forest Hill, on where Wharton's Market and the high school is, it flattens out. We still have timber, we still have brush, a lot less. It's flatter. There's grass up there. The fuels are a little bit less, so that'll help us out. Yes, sir. He asked if the lookout is still open and does the one at Duncan Peak. That's run by the Forest Service. I don't know if that one was open the day of the fire. Mount Howell right here is couldn't tell if it was open on that day, but Mount Howell has volunteers that go up inside that tower and look for smokes. It's in the summertime, and this time of year it is open quite a bit.
Any more questions from council?
Not a mosquito fire related question.
Questions, concerns? Okay.
Any mosquito fire? Okay.
Yeah, real quick. So I had said at 25, at 40 some section of Sawtooth Ridge. It's on Sawtooth Ridge, which is right next to the ridge. Look at it. There were a couple of streets that were named, and that's because of the proximity of the fire, how quickly it could go if it off of that Forest Hill Road. And it is Iowa Hill Road is that other warning. Iowa Hill Road, right down in. If you have questions and you want to follow our Facebook pages, Twitter pages, I think our Instagram, I don't know, all the social media pages, Sheriff's Office, Cal Fire, those are going to give you the most updated information. It's an interactive map. You can actually pull it up, look in, we update it as soon as we start to change something, we're updating. As soon as we get a new fire perimeter, we'll put it into the Sheriff's Office map so everybody can see what's going on.
Thank you.
And then just a couple more things. So coverage in the Nevada Yuba Placer unit, we're covered. All our stations are covered. That's the ability we have is to pull in resources from all over the state. Right now there's, I was just in Forest Hill and there's a fire engine from Burbank in there. I've seen Long Beach, Burbank, Carlsbad down in San Diego area. So a lot of equipment coming in. All the stations are staffed up. Super important because while we have the fire going or multiple fires going, what else do we have going on? Heart attacks, vehicle accidents, the same stuff that never goes away. So we still need to make sure that we're covered on that front. And then every night they're having a community meeting at 7 p.m. And if you'd like to watch that community meeting, it's on social media. So Facebook, you can go to the Cal Fire NEU Facebook page. You can go to the Placer County Sheriff Facebook page, the El Dorado County Sheriff Facebook page. And if I believe, hey, Kevin, the community meeting, is it on the Placer SO's webpage?
I know that they were updating the meetings there, and they are running on Facebook Live. they're interactive. If you have questions, you can pass on that. PIOs and lieutenants and everybody will be there to answer those questions.
And they're about a 30-minute long meeting. They try and keep them pretty short because otherwise crazy questions start coming in, like, is my house threatened? I live in Modesto. And so, and beyond that, any other questions?
Just
No.
one.
Yeah.
So I noticed that the Colfax Company 36 volunteers are still cruising the type 1, no type 3 up here yet.
There's a type 3 down in the shop that was getting serviced and coming up here.
Okay.
I don't know if it's made it up here because of what's been going on with everything just kind of went,
Okay.
just exploded with this fire. And then they should have the utility up here in the rescues down getting I forget the name of the shop down Rancho Cordova, getting repaired right now. And the utility, they restriped it and somebody painted the rims and it looks really good. I was super impressed. It's
All
pretty
right.
cool. So
Great.
yeah. Nope.
Thanks.
Thank you. And
Glad we
there's
got a
been, I
plan.
know that I'm not, and I don't know, I've heard the Colfax volunteers, the Company 36 volunteers have been responding to all sorts of calls. And so I'm not sure how many of them are on, but I think they're all like hanging out at the station.
Yeah,
Responding.
Roger's
to-
pretty much there 24/7 if he can be.
He's gone. He went on vacation. And but it's still
He was back
responding.
today.
Is he back
Yeah.
today? Oh, it's
Or
been
yesterday.
responding all anyhow.
Yeah.
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 Anyhow,
Put a hole
but,
there.
hey, I'm gonna leave this map up right here until Wes decides to rip it down, but you guys can take a look at that map. That's the latest as of today, this morning. Obviously it changes every day. Go on that community meeting. It's just a quick half hour. You'll have the operations chief give it an operational update, telling you exactly what the fire's done that day and what their plan for the next day is. So it's pretty good. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna bail if you don't all mind.
Thank you for
Yeah,
coming
Get some
in.
sleep.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, we do have representation from probation here tonight for the first time. They would like to speak
Oh.
at your indulgence, if you would
Oh,
mind.
okay. Oh, great. Come on up.
I'm not going to speak to the fire. Hi, how's everybody? My name's Officer Siri McLeod. I'm senior over Auburn Adult Field Operations. So essentially that's Newcastle all the way to Immigrant Gap. And I also have kind of a little hybrid position. I'm also community relations. So that's part of the reason why I'm here today. But as you guys probably know, we are all over the county. But I think there sometimes is a little bit of confusion as to what probation does. Are we the sheriff? Are we parole? So I just kind of want to duck in every now and again just to remind people what we do and what we do for you guys. So as far as the probation department and any probation department in the state, we run every juvenile detention facility in the county. We write investigative reports as folks are in the jail pending prison, pending formal probation, whatever the case may be. So we write about 6,300 investigative reports every single month. And we supervise an upwards of 4,000 people. That's both in county and out county. In Colfax right now, I looked at numbers last time I was here, and I think we have about under 50 people between formal probation, AB 109ers, and juveniles. But we're making about 800 home contacts every single month, and that's just formal probation and AB 109. And when I say AB 109, those are those parolees that parole used to supervise, but under AB 109, the non-nons, those are the ones that we're supervising now. And we're making about 600 home contacts with pretrial. And pretrial is all those individuals that are pending potentially trial or a conviction that are not in jail, and we're supervising them while they're out of jail. And we have about 1,111 DUI offenders that we're supervising, where DUIs are their primary offense. But anyway, like I said, we're in your community. I just wanted to give you a heads up of kind of what we do. We're not the sheriff, we're not parole, but we obviously our paths cross a lot. We collaborate really well with community and with our community partners, that being Sheriff's Office, CAL FIRE, CHP, whoever the case may be, Roseville PD, Rockland. But anyway, I just wanted to give you a little duck in and tell you who we are. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any questions from council?
Perfect. Thank you. We're also on social media, just as well as all these agencies are. I'm actually going to leave a couple of our stickers and QR codes that lead to all our social media platforms if you want to follow us and follow kind of what we're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. And we're going to move on to item 4D, which would be our nonprofits. Do we have anybody here representing our nonprofits? Come on up, Commander.
Thanks all. American Legion Plus 192 Commander. We have a lot of things going on right now. Of course, everybody knows about Railroad Days. We will be out, have a booth next to the caboose. We're going to have our famous Colfax cheesesteak sandwich. That's what we dubbed it last year. It's delicious. So be sure to come by and see us. We also have the first responder appreciation dinner. We did that last year in September, and it was a huge success. We learned from that. We don't go big, we go small now. But we're going to do it every year in October, the third Thursday in October up at the hall up there. And it's free to whoever attends, first responders, any attendee that comes and eats. We're happy to have you. We're applying for a one-day liquor license. So anybody that wants adult drinks will be able to get it. And we're looking for units that want to do a MC for their units, to introduce their troops, their firefighters, whatever, so that we can recognize them for what they do and recognize the whole units. It's going to be the whole thing is unit based, so it'll be a lot better, be a little smoother, and be a lot more fun, I believe. So that's all I have for you. And
Thank you.
That's on the 20th. Did I say it was October 20th?
October 20th.
Yeah.
At what time?
At 5 o'clock is the adult drink time.
Okay, so
At 6
5 o'clock is the
dinner.
social hour, 6 o'clock is the dinner.
6 o'clock is the
And
dinner.
what is the location?
The location is the Memorial Hall, Veterans Memorial Hall, up here on Sunset Circle. We'll probably keep it open till about 7:30, serving food up till 7:30, and that at that point we'll just kind of let everybody mingle around, and when we're done, we'll close up. Probably get out of there about 8.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for coming in and letting us know
Well,
and
thank you for letting me do
keeping
it.
it annual. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna rely on you.
Oh, absolutely. Whatever you need, you got me.
Thank you, Hank.
Thank you. Okay, so we, item 5, presentation. We do not have oh, I'm so sorry. Hi, who are you? I don't know you.
Loriana Checky. I'm here for the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Nice
I
to
think
see
I
you.
do. You're the new, right?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. So real quick, because you have a lot going on. We want to welcome a couple of our new members. We would like to welcome Donnelly Properties, Mi Ranchito Mexican Restaurant, The Best Western, Amanda Palmquist from CA Realty for You, and Maddie's Mexicali Stop, which will be opening in the next few days. The visitor center will be open at the passenger depot this weekend for Railroad Days, Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 5. And we have lots of railroad goodies there. Next week on Wednesday, September 21st from 5:30 to 7:30, we will have our networking mixer at Lighthouse Realty in downtown Colfax. And the last thing I'd like to share is that we're accepting vendors for Winterfest, which will be held the second Saturday of December. And you can contact the chamber for more details. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay. All right, let's.
You mentioned that.
Okay, so a member of the public asked if they mentioned Snapdragon, so I guess Snapdragon will be at the next announcement, is that? Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, let's go ahead and move to item 5, presentation. We do not have a presentation tonight, so we'll move on to item 6, public hearing. We do have a public hearing and we have Mick, our city attorney, joining us by phone. Is that correct? Mick, are you out there?
I'm here, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I'm on Zoom. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Great.
Good.
So Wes and Mick are going to start us off on the public hearing.
I'll do just a short introduction, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. This is on for second reading tonight. There have been no changes since the last meeting. It's a little bit different process. We would ordinarily do a public hearing when an ordinance is introduced. Tonight, we're doing the public hearing in tandem with the second reading. There was not enough time to publish notice of the public hearing before the last meeting. So we need a public hearing tonight. So staff recommends that the council conduct a public hearing and afterwards waive the second reading and adopt the ordinance. I'll just give you a brief summary, same as I did last time. This ordinance, if it is adopted, will allow the city engineer to post signs or markings indicating restricted or no parking on narrow streets, but can only do so after council approval. What staff anticipates is that the city engineer will make recommendations. Council will approve or disapprove the recommendations. If council approves, the city engineer will have signs or markings placed indicating restricted or no parking in certain places, and then enforcement can begin. Essentially, what the ordinance will do is allow no parking to be ordered on streets where the roadway is 20 feet wide or less, and on one side where the roadway is 30 feet wide or less. Council will decide which streets we require restricted or no parking. That will not be a staff level decision. And that will always be done at meetings at which the public has the right to comment. So with that, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I recommend opening the public hearing, taking public testimony, and then bringing it back to council for action.
Great. Okay, so we are going to open up the public hearing at this time, and I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation that Wes, you have, I believe.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, Mick did the presentation, and this would be the time that the public can provide testimony to the council when you opened up the public hearing, and then subsequently close the public hearing and bring it back to council for discussion.
Okay, so you don't have anything to add other than what he's already said?
I do not.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead and open up to public testimony. Do we have anybody on the phone? On Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Okay. Anybody in the room? Okay, seeing that there's, oh, okay, come on up, Larry.
Do I need the mic?
Yes.
Last time around, there was a short conversation about whether we should look at the streets again and determine if 5 years ago still holds. And I remember Wes mentioning that, well, we could spend $12,000 to do a study. And David said he'd do it, which I would prefer that. But one of the questions I'd like to ask is that at the same time right now, you're looking at parking issues on narrow streets. And I suggest that those narrow streets that are causing parking issues should be maybe prioritized higher than they are today. And some of the first that we improve. So again, just a consideration whenever you do the priority list for streets, consider that.
Okay, thank you. We do have somebody taking notes, correct?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Is on remotely. She's out of town at a training, but she's taking notes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, do we have any comments or questions? Oh, okay. I'm going to close public testimony. And do we have any comments or questions from council?
At the last meeting, we brought up the question about, could we get a small committee from council? And I think David had mentioned part of this, that we go out there and just do a quick self-assessment ourselves of the streets. And, I just wanted to find out where that was. I found some standards out there that are pretty easy to use to be able to look at a street and kind of rank it as to where it's at. But, that was a question I think left with you, Wes.
Joe, I planned on, and during my opportunity to speak, to have the Public Works Director talk on that particular item, but that item is not part of this discussion. This is just about signage. The pavement management plan discussion will happen subsequent.
Right. I just want to make sure that what Larry
we will be covering that
that'll be
tonight,
covered.
kind of the initial efforts that we're making at this point.
Yeah,
Okay.
So just to kind of restate, this, ordinance here. This ordinance allows the city engineer to come back with recommendations on streets that may need signage in there. And then that comes to council so that the public can review that street if they have any comments and things, so we can get their feedback on that. And then assuming that that got approved by council, those signs would go up and then law enforcement could start enforcing that should a need arise where we need to enforce it.
That is
correct.
Okay, sorry. Yep.
Okay, any more comments or questions from council? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public hearing. Any further comments from you guys?
Do we
on
need
the
a
council?
motion on this to approve?
Oh,
We need a motion, yes, we do, and it would be to waive the second reading and
I'm-
adopt ordinance 550.
I'm getting to that. So item 8 on this is council action. So do I have a motion?
Make a motion to waive the second reading and approve item 6A.
Adopt the ordinance, yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, so moving down to item 6. Ordinance amending the Colfax Municipal Code Section 17.112.180.
Madam Mayor, that's the item we just covered. We'd be in item 7
Oh,
now,
shit,
public
sorry.
comment on there. Thank you.
Okay. We are now at public comment. Anybody that wants to speak in public, including Facebook, on any subject other than what's on the calendar for tonight, please come up and speak in the microphone, or if you have anything to say, raise your hand online, please. Anybody?
Hello, staff and council members. Still waiting for, I want to present to you guys a couple of laws that are coming up in legislation that are probably going to be passed. And I want to maybe just get a clarification on. So the last time we got our business license, well, the time before it was on there, it said type M commercial cannabis. The one we just got recently just has retail. Now, in Colfax's eyes, that might not seem like a lot, but in the state's eyes and really in this industry, it's the difference between selling and collecting taxes and being a profit or a nonprofit corporation. So we, as we operate, have been operating in a commercial, commercial designation, retail, and just the plain retail is going to be the cultivation that this city ordinance still allows outdoor personal cultivation. That's outdoor personal medical, medicinal, and adult use. And so what's in legislation right now is those corporations that formed with those outdoor cultivators are going to be able to sell cannabis, not really sell, but sell, not commercially because they're nonprofit, and not licensed because they don't have to be because they're nonprofit in the town. So the county has the same regulations that's going to allow this, and the city does too. And there's going to be nothing that they're going to allow you guys to do about it. So I'm just putting that out there to maybe check that out. It's already passed. It's got a 3-12 vote, and it's in the next, if the governor signs it, it's done. So that's going to be to where, in our eyes, those are the illegal retailers because they're not supposed to be making money. They're supposed to be providing medicine for their patients. But the states made those patients into customers and made those corporations into adult sales abilities to sell to the adult market via being able to put their stuff in the track and trace system. So the track and trace system is metric. We've been in metric since 2020. These companies don't have to put anything in metric till the end of 2023. So they'll have a whole nother year of illegal operations without a license in your city, under the radar. And I'm telling you, most of these companies aren't old operators or locals from your cities. These are people that came in here, manipulated the system, and are still involved in manipulating the system right underneath everyone's noses. So I would like to be able to prove to you guys what I'm saying because I have all the proof. I can just show you the piece of paper that shows you what's happening and maybe get to the discussion for further down the road, because right now the federal government, they're not even going to allow medical to have smokable cannabis. That's like our biggest bank. And so when the FDA gets involved, medical is not going to have what we sell. So that's just one more step that puts us out, puts an existing licensed legal business out through regulation. And that'll be the final straw. And there's nowhere we can go besides to you guys because you're, the local control, and you guys have more power than the state does as far as we're concerned, because the state doesn't care anymore. They're getting their money. They don't even recognize adult use in medical. It does not matter to them. They get the money all the same. What matters is the customer type. So when you designate that customer type, it affects our business, and it's affecting us to where we won't be able to survive. And we just want to, survive because we've been playing the game, and that's all. So
Thank you, Tim, for bringing that up.
thank
Yeah.
you for listening.
Tim, sorry, I know I made an appointment to meet with you. I totally spaced it. So, yeah.
Are you going to stick around after the meeting or are you guys out? Okay, you stick around after the meeting. I'll come talk to you.
I'll make another appointment with you, Tim. Actually, make it this time. All right.
Okay, so moving to item 8. Right? Oh, I'm sorry, Kim Douglas. Bring it up.
Hello, Kim Douglas, 9 Washington Street. I wanted to briefly mention about the Snapdragon. They have a unique license where if you give them $1, you're a member for a year, and then you don't pay sales tax. So only Mick, the attorney, knows how that works. But anyhow, it's kind of interesting status they have there. I also wanted to mention that I got a call from Maddie, who owns TJ's, and she told me she will open tomorrow at noon. So if you have nostalgia for Homie Joe's, at noon tomorrow, they're opening. I'm going to keep talking.
What else you got going on?
And also we will open the caboose Saturday and Sunday at noon.
Okay.
And one last thing, my favorite event is actually Constitution Day, which is the third weekend of every September, which conflicts with Railroad Day. But
if you're not going to Railroad Day or you're just going one day, go to the Nevada City where they have the Constitution Day. It's just my favorite all-time event. And it only happens 2 places in America, but it's honoring the history of America. They have all the presidents and their wives in the clothing of the era, walking down the street, you know, starting with Washington and then Adams and Jefferson. And it's quite an event. So I don't want to promote another town.
Nevada City,
Nevada
what
City.
date?
It's the 3rd. Well, unfortunately, it always conflicts with our Railroad Day.
Okay, so September
Yeah.
okay, that's why. Okay, gotcha.
So go one day here and then another day. Great. All right, thank you. Did you want?
Oh, I have a question for you. Are you going to be out there in dress? Are we going to meet up and take some pictures with our favorite people?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
good.
working at the chamber and also at the caboose.
Okay, I'll see you out there.
Yeah.
Larry.
I went to the meeting on Monday, the hearing for the Bear River Park.
Yes, good.
And because this is an official body and I expect we'll be asked for a position, I just like to restate what I said the other night. I'm a frequent visitor of that park down there, typically a couple times a day to walk my dog. And in this last year, it's been a very peaceful place. That came from a sad beginning, the river fire. Many people lost all, and many of them spoke, some of them. And I'd like to speak about primarily mitigation and the opportunity that is presenting itself, because opportunity comes from problems. I advocated that it no longer be a campground. I'm open to the group camp because that area has to provide liability insurance and bonding and has people that actually can represent that and take care of that and care about what happens to it. But I think that the rest of the campground could go away because this is a local regional park. And I don't believe that we gain anything by allowing camping, but that's my personal opinion. I advocated mitigation for fire, and that being cutting brush and cutting trees. I advocated water access, whether that just means a big pump that's locked up down there and we can drop a hose in the river and get water in case something happened again. And also that I don't see how the fire pits add anything other than risk. I know I hiked the entire Pacific Crest Trail, as did my wife at a different time. The reason we didn't go together is she didn't ask me. So anyway, I never saw a campfire by any of those hundreds of hikers from the beginning of the trail to the end. And I got to prefer the stars and not breathe smoke from campfires. And I don't think s'mores are worth our forests or our property. And I'd like to see that go away. I believe in, again, local and regional use. It's a precious asset. What has happened apparently is that the state-run areas now, the first thing one meets when they go to one of them is a ranger asking for $10. And this is a park area that doesn't ask for money. But what I would advocate is that it be day use. And I would advocate that, especially in fire season, that there be a host down there that can keep an eye on things and make sure nobody's building fires, that they can educate the public on the danger of fires and what the regulations are and signs. And again, to mitigate the risk of fire in this community. And there's nothing quite like hearing sirens and airplanes at the same time like we did yesterday. Again, many lost all, and that has a way of grabbing my attention. And and taken me back to a year ago, standing on my doorstep, wondering, looking back inside, well, there's no point in locking the door. There's not going to be anybody here. And thinking about what is stuff and what really matters. And I'd rather not go through that again. So again, regarding fees, a lot of the mining people that spoke there were quite in favor of fees. I am not, particularly for local people. There are so few places that a young family can go nowadays where they don't have to pay. And I would advocate no fees. And I think that Placer County has more than enough money to actually not consider this as a profit center, but consider this a way to fund recreation for the people that live here. So thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Anything online? No? Okay,
Nothing online.
thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and move to item 8, council and staff reports. Councilmember Lohman, can we start with you and then we'll move our way through the motions?
Well, I also attended the Bear River Town Hall. Sounds like the county has a few options, either taking care of it and keeping up the campground, removing the fire pits, and still keeping the campground, taking out the campground, leaving day use, or leaving a hybrid of like a group camping sites and just a day use area with access along the river. Or their other option is to turn it back over to the state Department of Fish and Wildlife. And I don't think that's a good option for anybody. That's getting it further away from local control, but hopefully the county can decide to put some money into that. No matter what they do down there, that sounds like they need more supervision and fuel management work done. So whoever takes it over definitely need to push on those. That was pretty much what I heard from most of the community was one of those hybrid options would be probably best. Other than that, I went to the flood control board meeting on Monday, and they approved their budget for the year and budget amendments, and they're going to be starting some vegetation management projects and a lot of the drainages down the hill and some of the larger creeks like Dry Creek and stuff. So they'll be investing into that and getting flood ready for this year. That was all I had.
Thank you.
So,
Councilmember Fatula.
Yep. So I also attended the meeting on the campground. One of the key messages I heard, no matter whether it's day use, camping, group camping or not, it has to be a supervised facility. Having that place running without people down there 24/7 opens us up to the risk. Having just a ranger go through there once a day or twice a day is basically, in my opinion, a total waste. I mean, it's nice that you're doing that. Having the sheriff go down there once a day is interesting. Unless you have there somebody at the place 24/7, you're just wasting your time. We're just opening ourselves up to huge risk. If I look at what happens, because my wife and I have been camping all over the US when we've traveled the country. If you go up in Oregon, you find virtually every one of the state or county campgrounds has 3 camp hosts. They generally get their site that they stay at for free for about 3 months. Then basically it's retired people that want to see the country. They go up and spend 3 months in one area as a camp host. And because there's 3 different couples they have doing that, the campground has somebody there 24/7. They don't enforce it, but if they see a problem, call the sheriff, get the sheriff up there to go fix it. And then these problems go away. In all the camps that we've been at, and we did 10 years at 34 shows a year. So that's a lot of camping on the road. We never saw a problem at any campground that had camp hosts, right? The excuse is there's no potable water down there. And this is what I brought up with Cindy Gustafson back right after this fire. You can go down to Tractor Supply and you can buy a pallet-sized water container for about $375. It holds 275 gallons. You put one of them next to each of the camp posts and you got water for about 2 weeks, right? You have a water truck come down once a week to fill it up. You got plenty of potable water. For fire water, it's, in my opinion, it's ridiculous. We don't have a solution for fire. And all somebody has to do is throw a hose in the water, put a pump pressurized on a switch, fire hydrant type things like just faucets at each campsite. And now you've got a place for water at every single site. It's non-potable, so it's not drinkable, but it would be if you got a fire, that fire could have been out in minutes had there been a water source down there. Instead, how many homes did we lose in Bear River, right? In that whole canyon there. So there are many ways to solve this problem, including going to the extreme of putting a well in and all the fancy stuff and all, but there's some very low cost things that one could do that makes this a whole lot safer. But if that place is not supervised, I don't care what we do. I think it raises a huge risk for the town of Colfax, right? Second thing is, if the county decides not to operate that facility and it goes back into state hands, we already heard from the group that was at the table there last night that says they have no money to operate or maintain it. Yep. So it'll go back to state hands and then it'll become a homeless encampment up there. Yeah. So the only other way you can do something is to destroy the campground, put giant rocks all over the place so nobody can go in there, right? And it's kind of a stupid thing to do, but you only have two options: either supervise it and run it supervised, or don't, right? And my opinion is it has to be supervised. Whether it's a group camp, individual camps, and all, that's all good discussion stuff to go through. But whatever we do, it has to be supervised, including day use. So that's kind of my comments on that. A second item, so we've had a lot of people coming from Colfax up to the Alta Food Bank, which operates every Thursday from 10 to noon. That food bank has given out 35,000 meals in the past year. Over 2/3 of them are in the last 4 months. So the volume is going gigantically up. Colfax accounts for about 7% of that volume right now. And that's averaged over a year. But if I look at the numbers, Colfax has been in the last 3 months. So it's way higher than 7%. So we're helping a lot of the people in this area here. So if anybody needs food or is struggling with their food budget and all, every Thursday from 10 to noon, there's a food bank that operates every single week of the month. There's also the one in Colfax, but that one doesn't operate as frequently. So take advantage of both. The amount of food that's coming through the food bank is unbelievable. I mean, we pick out the stuff we'd like to take to bring up there, but when you go down to the food bank down south of the county here, it's like we could have packed up 3 giant vans worth of food if we tried. And it's like there's plenty of food to help people that are in need. So if you know any families that are struggling with their food budget and all, there's lots of help available. You only have to provide 2 pieces of information. One is your first name, and the second is what city or town are you from? That's it. So that's the requirements. So if you know of anybody, please send them up there, 10 to 12 every Thursday, right? And that's all I've got for right now. Where? Sierra First Baptist Church, right next to the firehouse. If you can make it to the firehouse, you won't miss it because it's packed. Come early. By the way, they give out a bag of what's called a wet bag, which is generally frozen meats and stuff like that. They give out a dry bag, which is generally canned goods. And then they have a shopping area open, which has all kinds of breads, vegetables, pastries, all kinds of stuff like that. So people leave with sometimes 3, 4, 5 bags worth of food. So, yeah. Cool. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Sure.
Excluding root camp, how many campsites are we talking about?
I think it's 22.
I think it's just over 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Nothing to report. And I agree.
I'm like-
Yeah, you're good.
It's like, I just wanted a little bit of more time. Okay, well, I don't really have anything to report, but I do want to make a statement and I do want to ask a question. Wes? The Bear River Campground, I need to get some clarification on it. So that is county funded and Colfax regulated. Is it in our jurisdiction? Like, because don't we have, I'm gonna have to call Will. There's nothing that we're gonna vote on here, right? To keep that closure or not. We just got to keep advocating to get people in there, right?
Yeah, so the
Or
answer
out
to
of
the
there,
first
whatever.
question is, no, the Bear River Campground is not in our jurisdiction. And it's also not in what's called our sphere of influence, which is the area outside the city limits that we could annex in the future. It's far beyond that. Although as many have mentioned, it has a direct impact for Colfax here if it's not managed.
Yep.
And it's also a great revenue source that many of these businesses in town benefit from, on the back end of it as well too.
Okay, well, that's kind of what I wanted to look at, what I was asking. Can you explain that so that maybe some of the listeners can understand what you're talking about?
Yeah, so one thing we could do as a council is we could do a letter or whatever to the Placer County Board of Supervisors and tell them what our position is on this. Right? And I think our position should be a very simple position. The county needs to maintain this park. The county needs to have 24/7 supervision, whether it's day use or camping use, right? And any other position just puts Colfax at risk. I think it's a very simple thing because without supervision, the chance of another fire happening there is not zero. The other thing that our sheriff mentioned, if somebody is cooking there, there's nothing they can do to cause them to put the fire out.
Yep.
So we get rid of the fire rings. They can put an open fire on the ground. As long as they have one hot dog, there's nothing we can do to the person that's cooking.
Yep.
Right. So when you look at the fire ring thing or a barbecue thing or a little stove thing or something, if you control what is there for a person to use, you might minimize risk. But the place where this started at the campsite was there. It was one of these upstanding barbecue things. You could see the tie wraps where the sign was on it that says no cooking fires are permitted. That was removed and that's where the fire started in this. Right. And we saw the adjacent sites had a plastic sign, a laminated piece of paper with 4 tie wraps holding it over the grill. So the sign does no good unless there's supervision there.
Sean, do you want to add?
Go ahead, Tim.
The comment was, could we have one fire pit in a safe area? The answer is that's a great idea if people follow it. And the whole issue is if people follow the right things, like that one campsite, if they weren't using the thing that says not to use it,
They weren't.
there wouldn't have been a fire. Right?
They weren't. They had a fire down by the water, not in the,
Okay.
in the fire pit.
Yeah, but either way, there was supposed to have been no
So
fires
there
there
was.
at that time, so. Right.
This is anecdotal. You know, going down yesterday, I can see as the patrols increase, homeless people will disappear.
Yep.
As soon as they tapered off, they hit the word and on you see there's a lot of people.
Yep.
That's the same.
Yep.
I mean, I feel for them, but they're outside the laws.
Yeah, it's the same thing with our Roy Thomas Plaza. You got to constantly be in there talking to people and making that point. Otherwise, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, so that's my view is very simple. It has to be supervised. Right.
Okay.
So Madam Mayor, I think or Mayor Pro Tem, I apologize. I think I get a sense from council that we would bring forward a letter at the next meeting. I think I get a general sense that there's support for the county to continue to operate. And the biggest issue really is that it is managed, that there's somebody there actively They're managing the facility. We can bring a template of that forward. And then if council would wish to build on that document, we can do so.
Okay, yeah, because Trinity's not here, so
We have at least two people.
yeah, you guys, so there's three, so I'm outvoted. I'm just kidding. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm like, really, I think that we need to be creative here.
I agree.
Yeah, I think we need to be really creative and
And by the way, the same thing applies for the other campground. Because remember, there's not just one campground in this area.
Mineral bar.
Mineral Bar.
That's.
which state,
Yeah, that's hosted.
and they do have somebody there.
Right, it's hosted.
That's part of our state record, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's had its own problems too. We've just been lucky and caught all the fires that have come out of there. And
Yeah.
you're still gonna have that fire risk no matter what, whether it's supervised, unsupervised, remote, out in the middle of a road on a major thoroughfare. It doesn't matter. You're still gonna have that fire risk if the fuels are there.
Yeah.
But they do mitigate a lot of that and a lot of other issues by just having a host down there.
Yeah.
Even if they're not checking up, they're just emptying trash or whatever.
But maybe that's one that we should recommend to the county. They put a water system in. So if there is a fire, there's a hose at every campsite where they can put it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna bring this back for some more discussion when Trinity's here then.
Yes, staff.
Mayor Burris is here, sorry.
Yeah, when we'll bring forward the three items. One is the council at this time, the draft will say that the council wishes the county to maintain control of the facility. Two, that it should have a camp host 24/7. And three, it sounds like maybe some fuel management that to continue.
And maybe a
budgeted
water
annually.
system, even if it's river water,
Yeah.
just for putting out fire.
Okay. All right, well, let's continue that conversation. And then, city manager, what do you have as far as city operations update? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. One thing I've mentioned before in the past, the city's applied for a home hardening and defensible space grant from the state. On there, that grant is values of $6 million. I mentioned it previously that Cal OES is accepted the application. We finally got the official notice now that they're satisfied with all the documentation that we have submitted, which means there's no more Q&As coming on the back end. So it means that they're satisfied with, I think, with the content of it. The next step beyond that would be they would look at it and see if it's eligible for the funding. And then they'll go through the process and determine whether it's eligible. And if it is eligible, then I think the step after that is, are they going to award the money and how much? So that's the process itself is we're trying to strive to get to at least $38,000 per resident that wants to go through the process and do it. So this is, you can replace your siding on your home with fire safe material, your windows, your roof, that type of stuff that you need. And also the immediate defensible space around the structure. As many of us know, like having wood bark next to your home is an ignition source that shouldn't be used, especially in the fire danger area. So I just wanted to, present that positive news that we're one more step closer.
Great.
We're moving at the pace of a herd of turtles as we do with the state. But it's positive, I think. And as I mentioned earlier, I'd asked Martin to come tonight to give us an update on the pavement management plan that council asked us to kind of pursue and the options tonight. So if you wouldn't mind, Martin.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, council members, essentially, as Wes has just said, the pavement management program is something that we spoke about on the last council meeting. I reached out to the consultant that completed the study for us last time. They're currently in the process of structuring a quote to go through and do an update of all surface streets, major arterials and collectors. As you know, the last winter we had was devastating the roads with all the plowing, the freeze thawing and everything else. So I'm hopeful to have a quote by the end of this week, and I can bring hopefully a proposal to you at the next council meeting. With that being said, if you don't mind, I'd like to take one extra moment to give an update on the Union Pacific. that is actually, I'm grateful, been very positive. We're moving forward in a very good forward momentum. I spoke with Jesse Hernandez, who is a new vegetation manager for Union Pacific. We have John Clay with H&H Enterprises, who will be beginning work on both slopes of the South Main and North Main Street areas. They were just waiting for their ropes guy to come into town because they're having to do a lot of specific rigging to get a lot of the dead trees down off that slope side. So, yeah.
Target start date?
I'm sorry?
Target start date.
This Friday, the 16th.
Okay.
That's the last thing that I heard. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Great work getting that done. I know it can be hard to get Union Pacific to go through. Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
I do. I want to build on the comments on the pavement management plan. I'd asked Martin to get a proposal quote from Coastland Engineering that had done the work previously, because I want to see what that potential cost looks like. If it's nominal, we would pursue it. If it's exorbitant, then we're going to need to look at other creative options. As I heard previously in the room from the public and council, we're going to have to get creative if we're going to do something.
Yep.
But look forward to that. If it's not on the 28th meeting, it'll be in the first meeting of October for discussion.
Great,
Thank you, Wes.
great. Let's move to item 9, council business. Okay, so this is for who's carrying this one? Who's
Madam Mayor
Oh.
Pro Tem,
Martin? You are, right?
Mick is going to do the introduction of the legalities that the council has the authority to do such. And after that, I've asked Martin to provide an update as to what improvements have been done as a result of the first amendment and what items are still outstanding as in the request for the second amendment on there. So Mick, if you want to do a light introduction, that'd be great.
Sure, I'd be happy to. This is a very simple request to extend the deadline for completing certain public improvements related to the Best Western Hotel for an additional 60 days. You gave us a couple month extension earlier. Apparently what's occurred, and I'm not entirely sure of the facts, is my understanding that supply chain issues have essentially prevented the developer from completing all the required public improvements, and so they're asking for more time to do so. This is permitted under both the law and the Colfax Municipal Code. The developer does plan to and will be required to post adequate security. What he posted last time was a check. I think we're going to retain that check. May have to ask for a replacement of it if it becomes stale data, but we will have cash security for the improvements. So we know they will get done at some point. I think it's just a matter of timing. And that's my introduction. I have no objection to the legality of this. It's really a question of policy for the council. Do you want to allow an extension of this nature? So that's my introduction.
Clarify, we actually cashed the check. The money's in the bank on there, and we're holding the security at the same value as original, no matter what improvements have already been done. In particular, because of the cost increase for construction, we want to make sure there's plenty of funding there should the developer default.
Yeah.
So you have $113,920 cash in the bank then.
Yeah. So it's in the developer's best interest to get this done so he can get some of his money back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have no reason to believe that the developer won't get this done. We want to work with them. I mean, his doors are open, the business is doing well, the community is benefiting from it. They're just trying to be flexible.
Yep.
So Martin, if you want to kind of mention what items are still outstanding, that'd be appreciated.
Sure, thank you. So let me start out with what has been completed from the previous amendment. So there was an 18 by 18 inch drainage inlet that was installed on the adjacent property. The vegetation was cleared on the frontage road along South Auburn. There's still a little bit more work that needs to be done on that. As I'm sure you've noticed, a lot of invasives. Plus, we discovered there's a willow tree in there, which is definitely going to have to come out. What does need to be completed, and I've spoken with the developer and also KP Martin, who is a contractor that's going to be doing the work. They've already procured the materials. Wes was correct. There's been a little bit of an issue with getting materials in a timely manner. So they have to excavate the hole a little bit larger in order to do a repair to the pipe. Once that's completed, they will be backfilling that area. They have to cut the road down a little bit more to bring it down to a more manageable level. Then the area is going to be paved with new asphalt, new curbing is going to be put in, and a little screen wall will be installed between the two property lines. So all of this is definitely feasible to be completed within 60 days. Other than that, do you have any questions?
Any questions from council?
Yep, just real quick. So the developer still has a bunch of open land on that lot that's turned over and all dirt. We're getting rain in the next couple of days. I know some of the storm cleanup is going to be part of their 60-day plan, but what do they got planned for the next 3 days? I mean, it doesn't sound like we're going to get a whole lot, but I don't want to see a bunch of muddy puddles running down the road or the creek all muddied up again.
I don't either. I like hanging out with you, but not in the mud. So,
right.
So that's one of the issues we're being addressed with the developer. Also, he still does have some materials left on site, i.e. wood, trailers, so on and so forth. Does need to be removed because that was part of the original letter of agreement. So as far as the next 3 days, we'll be making sure that he has straw wattle in place, especially around the DIs.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else on the council? Public comment? Anybody have any comments in the public? Or online? No comments online? Okay. What was that? Okay, thank you.
So motion to approve the extension.
Second.
And can I get a vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Fuchilla,
Aye.
Councilmember Ackerman,
Aye.
Councilmember Loman,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mendoza.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, number 10, good of the order. Does anybody have anything that is good for the order? And we will start with Council Member Ackerman this time.
Yeah. It's too bad that like CAL FIRE and CHP and the sheriffs are all gone, but I just want to say very quickly, I was up there in Dutch Flat yesterday afternoon, and to see the organization and how they handled that, even pre-evacuation, was very impressive, very, very organized. I just wanted to say my hat's off to them.
Thank you.
Yep. And I just wanted to just thank Wes for opening the community center yesterday.
Yes.
So we had that as a backup. I had about just under 20 people that we opened our shop up to say, anybody coming down from Dutch Flat that just needed a place to gather, to organize or whatever. We brought pizza in there and drinks and sodas and stuff. So it was kind of nice community time there. And then when you opened the center, we had a couple of people walk over, and just as they started walking over, we got the signal that they're opening it back up to let people in. So, but it was like perfect timing. It's like, so I just want to tell your staff and everybody, just thank you for opening that up. That's just all the pieces came together right. It could have been desperately needed. I'm just glad that it wasn't. Right. I have one other question to ask, and that's, did we hear any update on the Colfax Hotel?
Yeah, thank you for the reminder on that. It will come to council for the design review on the 28th of this month. Perfect. We have all the documents necessary. The work you've currently seen, that's primer paint going on, and they've done some trimming around the windows. They got some caulking, and then as part of the design review, then the color selection's got to be done because of the downtown historic overlay part of it. And I got to give Leif credit. He's literally holding up the old Gilman Hotel picture. Yeah. And the sconces over the windows and everything else. He's replicating the original look on this thing. So I'm looking forward to the project coming forward to council to consider on the design review. I think you're going to be pleased.
Can we ask them to be at that meeting? Because that'd be good feedback to give them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Right, and then just another thing, we talked about the street grant that we're trying to do for the 5 major streets in Colfax and how that money is still tied up in committee, even though we're kind of approved, but they haven't released anything and our priorities is not there. So I had planned to start walking around all of the homes that are adjacent to those streets about a week and a half ago till the fire hit, right? And the smoke and all. So I'll be starting that up again probably on Monday. I'll have a map that shows the area that's affected. I'm going to put a little petition together that says if you're a homeowner in that area and you would like to let our committee down there know that this is an important thing to be done, it'll give you a place that you can sign up that says yes. And I'll have the contact information for all of the members of that board. I'm going to ask everybody to call or email each of those members so they hear that this is an important thing. It's kind of like, I don't think Cindy expected at the campground meeting as many people as showed up, because originally it was supposed to be in here and we all looked at it and said like, no way. And it's good to have community involvement to help our elected officials know where their priorities should be at. Right. Yeah. So please, as I'm coming around to your homes and you see this, if you can participate, it'd be really helpful. Right. That's all I got.
Just wanted to check in with the vegetation management ordinance mailer. We got any direction or progress on that?
We probably talked offline. I talked to Chief Lovelace and he said he had a sidebar conversation with you about the documents that it was released last year and that met what you were looking for, and maybe there was some miscommunication or something. I thought that was addressed already.
I thought he was going to point you towards another website or avenue for other stuff. Let's go. We'll meet and talk offline.
Okay.
Thanks. Just wanted to check.
I apologize if I missed the mark on that.
No problem. I think I was on him.
So that leaves me. Let me think, what can I talk about? Talk about gratitude for yesterday and the fast action, the action that's being taken out there on that mosquito fire. As everybody knows, I am like literally on this stuff like laser. You guys just don't see me. We started in 2017 and I can say that I am really grateful for where we are today, you know. Yeah, a lot more work needs to be done. So I'm not going anywhere. So that's all I have. This meeting is done.